Hi Homeworthy, I'm Rachel. Welcome to my cottage in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Come have a nosy.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Rachel Dougherty. I'm a handbag designer and welcome to my cottage in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. My cottage is from the 1860s. I think that's kind of like the earliest we found it on the map. It's an old granite farmhouse cottage, and when I first moved in, or when I first bought it, it was quite old, quite run down, didn't have any insulation, there was lots of wood rot, damp, so it'd seen better days, but it had a load of character like all these little cottages do, so I knew it would be, perfect and a good project for me to take on. I'd been living in London for about 15 years and it was a total dream to kind of have my own project and move home and do a renovation like this. And I guess the exciting thing is to be able to put like a stamp on your own house, and I guess truly doing that with a renovation, you can just do whatever. You can start from especially because I was ripping everything out, I could just go crazy. Yeah, that's what really sold doing a renovation for me. When I started the renovation, I knew that the whole house would have to be gutted because there was, as I said, a lot of kind of issues with the house. So I would come over on an evening. I was staying at my mum and dad's about 10 miles away. I'd come over on evenings and weekends and I would get the sledgehammer out and totally just knock whatever down needed to be knocked down. So all the walls, the ceilings, and then just bringing the whole house back to brick, what they say. And then starting, building it back up from scratch. And then that's when I kind of got the builders and the contractors in at that point. And then when they left, it was left up to me to do all the decorating and all the kind of the really fun bits. So yeah, starting off was kind of, it was a big job. It was kind of taking it all the way back to its original kind of form. This is my living room. One of my favourite things in here is the cladding. I wanted it to feel like an old kind of Scottish bothy up the wall and then on the ceiling as well, so it feels super cosy. And then my fireplace, so most things I try and buy secondhand or vintage, pre-loved stuff. So this is from an old cottage down the road and the girl was getting rid of it, so I took it off her hands. And then the bricks on the hearth, me and my dad collected them from someone who was getting rid of them and made the hearth. And then I don't know if you can tell, but what you might think is tiling, it's just wallpaper. And I got this old half-used roll. So I kind of given the illusion of tiles. The plan will be to have a lovely wood burner in there, but I'm, that's on the saving up list, so that's something that I'll do at a later date. Lots of my artwork and framed pieces are from antique and vintage shop that's nearby or charity shops that are local to the area. My kist, my little coffee table, my sister bought it at a jumble sale and then didn't want it, so I managed to snap that off of her. I've got a lovely little antique pine cupboard here, which is super useful, and I bought that from a local shop. A lot of my lighting is also vintage or secondhand, including the shades. So this one is from someone on Instagram. This is vintage, and then the wall sconces I got online, and then paired them with a couple of vintage French gingham shades. The sofas, so as I say, I like to normally get everything secondhand or pre-loved, but because the space was so tight in here, these two are actually from IKEA, and I've just kind of loaded them with a load of throws and cushions that I've made to kind of give it that cottagey, kind of cozy kind of feel. Another piece that I've bought from a lovely lady that I shop with locally, she was selling this lovely bit of silk, and someone had embroidered all these old vintage cigarette pieces of fabric, and then I got it framed. I've got a really great frame guy, so yeah, I just think it looks amazing with the kind of putting that beautiful piece of history and the fact that someone's taken so long and so much care to sew every single thing on, and then, you know, putting it up, I think is nice. It gives a bit of character to the home. And then I'm always on the lookout for small, cute wee things. I definitely had to have one of these printers trays to put anything small I find whenever I'm going like out and about or on my travels. I try and collect something and bring it back. And I also ask my family, if you see anything small, bring it back so I can put it on my shelf. So I'll be collecting everything from all over the world. These are my favourite wee things, these tiny little tin water bottles. I think they're for dolls, but they're just so cute and kind of silly and fun. And yeah, I love them. I think, you know, most homes storage is key, but when you have a small home, you have to kind of make every space or every room work super hard. So I've kind of put my little coffee nook here with my coffee machine, hung all my mugs up so I can have more space, a little drinks bit here and glasses, and then, you know, books on the top. And I got this little kind of area made specially by some joiners that I work with. And then underneath it's got more storage as well. So yeah, I like to kind of use the local joiners to make bespoke kind of areas within my room so that I can get that like every last eke out of the storage. So I studied fashion at university, and then I kind of specialised in textiles and screen printing. And for my final collection, I made these printed felt bags, and they were really colourful, bold, and like quite big as well. And I took them to Graduate Fashion Week, and I ended up winning the Mulberry Accessories Award, which meant that it kind of like turned me onto a path of handbags. And I never really had thought of it before, but that got me a couple of internships, and yeah, that's like been my career since. I've been designing handbags for the past 16 years, and a couple of years ago I was able to become freelance, and that was how I was able to move home back to, this is like where I'm from and where I grew up. So it's all kind of worked out like really well, and I absolutely love my job, and feel really lucky that I can do something creative like this every day. So I definitely have a really colourful and playful style, and I love mixing print and pattern and colour together. I like, you know, little fun things. I don't kind of see my home as being too serious or too pristine. I like the idea of people being able to come into my house and be relaxed and not feel like they have to like be careful about where they're walking or what they're doing. And I think that definitely my job as a handbag designer and studying fashion and textiles at university has definitely kind of helped me, you know, with pulling fabric and colour and print and pattern together. It's definitely something that I do, I guess, in my day job, and I've just kind of like transferred it into, you know, making my home. So this is my utility room, which I would say is the hardest working room in my house. I don't have a kitchen at the moment. That's going to be a phase 2 when I save up enough money to do an extension. So this is my utility / make do kitchen. So I have an air fryer. This is where I cook. A lot of people are always kind of like, well, how do you manage? But it's amazing what you can do in an air fryer. I have my toaster up here, and I have like, this is my granddad's little unit here that I took from his house. And it's super useful, really handy. It's a really great size as well. In here I also have a washing machine under the curtain. This is my sink, so I do my kind of washing and my washing up. So yeah, it really does work super hard. I got the red Formica top made specially because I wanted a bit of pop of colour in here, and then I wanted it to be like the primary colours against the yellow and then the blue. And then I tiled the back with this kind of really cute floral checkerboard. And then the flooring is one of my favourite things. It's a blue and white checkerboard, but what's really nice about it is that it kind of moves from this room into the next room into a green and white checkerboard. So I'll take you to the next room, which is the bathroom. So this is my bathroom. It's just off the master bedroom, so I guess it's a bit of like an ensuite. I wanted this to be super fun, super colourful, and I've got the checkerboard tiles on the floor, and then I wanted the checkerboard tiles inside the shower as well. So I was really set on having something coloured for either a sink or a toilet in here. So I found this yellow, it's called Primrose Yellow for my sink, and it matches up nicely with the tiles that I've picked as well, which are kind of like an off-white, creamy yellow. The wallpaper is, I absolutely love it. It's a discontinued Sanderson wallpaper. And I bought it off a vintage seller, so you can't get it anymore, and I think I got the last rolls, and I had to like be a bit creative because I hadn't measured if it would fit in this space, but it's a lovely like pinstripe with the floral over the top, and that really ties nicely with the arsenic paint that I've got on the woodwork. I made a red and white stripe blind and then used red and white on my towels, so like that little hint of red, which I think really kind of adds a little bit of playful / seasidey kind of thing to it. I would say that most things in here are vintage. The mirror, the sink, the toilet, my prints, my vintage fish prints that I bought from a seller online. And then I found this lovely little fish from the charity shop down the road the other day, so he's gone up. I just will find little bits as I'm going around, and if I think that they'll look cute, I'll just hoy them up. And I think a bit like cliche bathroom, like a tiny little boat. I just think it's a little bit of fun, and that's why I like to have, you know, a bit of things to make you smile, including my swan, which again I bought vintage, and the lovely little bamboo mirror there as well. All secondhand, all bought from various different vintage sellers or shops. And continuing on into the master bedroom. This was a room that I've just recently completed, so the kind of last room for a little bit. I absolutely love it. About a few months ago, I decided, oh, there's so much colour in the house, I'll just paint the walls white and it'll be like a calming space. And then I just lived with it for a few months and I was like, absolutely not. So I've put William Morris willow bough everywhere, and it just looks, I think, so great with all the kind of stuff that I've added on top. I've also had a little bit of bespoke joinery done in here. So the little red shelving unit there, that was made by my joiner, as well as this kind of little cupboard, which houses actually like the electric box. So a good way to disguise it. And also the window seat, which has also got more storage in there. So just trying to make the most of every single space. I have a dream after living a bit, I think it was about 2 or 3 years, with just like a kind of pole to hang my clothes on, to get like finally get a wardrobe. So it's a bit of an IKEA PAX hack. And what I've done is built the carcasses, and then the joiners have made these MDF doors and they've scored them so that it matches up with the panelling that's in the ceiling. So it looks kind of like a bit like a faux panelled wardrobe, and I've painted them this really lovely like lilac glossy colour, which I think looks really nice as a kind of pop of a contrast with the rest of the room. So I really wanted one of those kind of bobbin, like vintage looking beds. Sadly, I couldn't find anything secondhand, so this is something new, but I think that it looks, you know, it looks perfect for this space. I've got this lovely diamond quilt, which is from another lovely local lady. And I've just mixed and matched the textures and the prints in here. And this is made by a Scottish company called Petit. And it's got, I thought it was really nice because it's got all the little strawberries in it. And a lot of people here in the summertime go strawberry picking, and it's quite a kind of classic Scottish school holiday thing to do. So yeah, I thought that was a really lovely touch to add in here. I obviously love textiles, and I think, you know, if I can frame anything that I think looks lovely and has texture. This is from a lady online. She sells lots of lovely kind of Indian product. So this is a vintage kind of piece of embroidery. And then I asked my frame guy to kind of bring out a bit of the blue in it, and then just a simple kind of wood frame. But I think it, you know, really ties in all the colours I've pulled together in the room, so it's kind of like the colour palette, I guess, for the room, and everything else kind of just kind of draws into that. Colour is really something I get like super excited about, and putting colours together in a colour palette and a colour story. I think like throughout my house, everything kind of like flows together because I naturally am drawn to certain colours. And I know that certain colours kind of are a nice contrast or a nice kind of opposite to what the main colour of the room is. So I like to have highlights. So for example, the blue of my bedside cabinets, and then always like a bit of a touch of red, and I love green as well. So I kind of have those kind of colours running throughout my house, with different tones and different levels. I wanted something soft for my ceiling light in here because of the wood. So I made this shade from white linen tablecloth that my friend gave me. She was chucking it out and I thought, right, I'll definitely do something with that. So I just made this kind of really soft and flouncy shape, which I think looks really lovely against the wood on the ceiling, and it really goes with the rest of the room. Growing up, my mum and dad had got a similar chest of drawers in their home that my dad had bought from an auction, and I'd always wanted one for the cottage, and they weren't going to give me theirs. So I found this, but it was completely, it had no knobs, no feet. It was just from a local seller that had it in their barn and they were getting rid of it, so I got it for free. So I sanded it all down and put the feet on it and kind of brought it back to life and gave it a little oil. So now I've got my very own one, and I love it because it's so much character. It's in the pitch pine, which kind of matches with the doors. So all the doors in the house, more or less, I think, are old doors that I found online on secondhand sites, and then I had them stripped and sanded, and I've left them. I haven't treated them because I like that kind of piney look. This is one of my favourite things actually. I've got two of these fishes. They're slightly different, but someone's pan painted them, and like they came with little hooks. So I've used this one, put this one up and used it for my jewellery. That's from an antique place down the road. But I just loved how fun and quirky it was. And then I love bits and bobs. I'm like a real bits and bobs girl. So I found this like little trinket pot. I love tins, kind of like packaging. This is really amazing. This tin here with the lovely blue inside, and it's got little sections, so I just use that for my hairbands. I bought this Alice Palmer lampshade in this iCat print. It was in the sale, so I got it, and I've been lusting after one for ages. And then I found this lamp base on eBay for like a tenner. So kind of mixing the glam with something more affordable. But I just think it looks lovely in here, and kind of sitting back quite tonally nice with the wallpaper. It's really hard to say what my favourite thing is. I sometimes just walk around the house and just stand in the rooms and will just spend a little time in each room. I feel so lucky to be able to have a space that I've been able to make my own. I guess I love the fact that it's a traditional Scottish cottage, and the proportions are lovely. It's got the two windows at the front of the house, and then the two at the top. So it looks really kind of like doll's housey, and I like that about it. I think it's really important for people to have things that they love, things that give memories and character, and just make you feel good, or whatever emotions you need to feel in your home. And well, that's how I feel for me in my home. I think it's important for it to kind of show your personality, to show kind of your character, and to show I feel like if you walk into a house and you can immediately be like, oh yeah, this is such and such's house. For me, that's a good indication of a house becoming a home. So this is my entrance. I really wanted quite a bit of an impact as soon as you open the door and you walk into this really beautiful blue woodwork. This is probably one of my favourite things actually in the house. It took me quite a while to paint, several coats, lots of sanding, but it's totally worth it. And then I decided to pair, because it's so bold and bright and I've done all the woodwork in it, I paired it back with this kind of camel and cream striped wallpaper, which I think, they make a really nice pair. Again, just following on from lots of little trinket things that I have, I like to put things on the wall and, have things that are still useful to use. So I've got a little kind of vintage green drawer set here, and I keep all my sunglasses in there. And then another wonderful fish from the same place I was talking about the one in the bedroom. So somewhere to hang all the keys, shoe hooks. So although it kind of probably feels like there's lots going on, there is kind of method to my madness. And then the flooring, I just wanted to have something quite practical in terms of the rug. So it's actually like a plastic, woven plastic, but I like the fact that there's a bit of that red that I'm talking about that's kind of like running through the whole house. And then the curtain as well. I love tartan, and I just thought I definitely had to have some tartan in this little section here. On the thresholds, well, firstly I wanted to have wooden thresholds because I just thought that was such a lovely feature. And then I've painted this one a bit of a checkerboard, again like how the bathroom goes from green to blue. I've kind of kept that theme here. And then I think eventually I'll probably end up doing something a little bit different on each one as time kind of goes on. I'll get the paintbrush out. This is the upstairs landing, so a continuation of all the blue that I painted on the stairs and the woodwork, so continuing that up here, and the wallpaper as well. I have this piece of art on the wall here when I did an internship at Zandra Rhodes about 20 years ago. I worked in the screen printing room, and any offcuts of a print, I put a bit of paper down and kind of like scrummage away so I could keep for one day, like as a piece of art. So that's a really special piece for me there. And then I also have this lovely little blue cherub, which I think looks really cute with all the blue in here. That's a little vintage light that I got online. This lovely little nook here I asked especially for the joiners I work with, just another place to put silly little things. So originally the window here was about, a third of the size, and that was one thing we wanted to do, is to kind of put a bigger one in and kind of make the space up here a bit brighter. But I also don't love the look of them, so I'd bought this vintage piece of embroidered fabric and cut it down the middle and put 2 channels in it and made this kind of like window dressing for it, which I think adds kind of like a bit more character, makes it feel a little bit more like me and a bit more cottagey. I think that I've always thought about, obviously this home is for me, but also as for my family and for my friends, and I always kind of imagined that I'd have lots of visitors and folk visiting and staying with me. So I want people to feel relaxed and comfortable, and also have that coziness that you get with like a cottage and all the kind of furnishings and stuff that I've put together. So like warm, cozy, relaxed. And then also, like, I personally love always having something to look at, so that's why my house is scattered with like lots of little things, because yeah, it's I enjoy looking, and I hope that people that come and visit enjoy it too. This space is a bit of a doer-aller, so it's the guest bed. It also is my little creative desk corner, so this is where I make and have like lots of fun in this bit. So it's all my kind of craft supplies, all my fabric in this shelving, and yeah, it's also for when I have the odd visitor that comes up, they've got a cozy bed to sleep on. The lights are vintage, and I made these cute little tartan covers for them, just to add a little bit more texture and pattern into the room. The bed frame is this really lovely coral colour, which I think looks really nice with the pink walls, the soft kind of like nudie pink. This is all vintage, and then this lovely bedding from Toast in this kind of sagey green pinstripe. This shelving unit is from India, and it's vintage, and it was one of the first things I bought for the cottage, and it was really hard to get up the stairs. It took about 5 people to get it up here, so it lives here now forever. But I really love the colour, the green, the red and the cream, and I think it looks lovely in here, and it really kind of is also super practical and useful. This retro type TV my boyfriend bought at an auction, and it now lives in here, along with the Super Nintendo, which I'm sure he's going to get working at some point, and this will be like a little nook for him to play games in. This is the upstairs bathroom, and I have a bath in here, and all of the sink, toilet, bath, it's all secondhand. I did all the tiling in here, and I wanted it to look like a little Scottish sauna. So it's fully cladded, and I've painted it, well, stained it this kind of like orangey kind of stain, which I think looks really cool. Again, I've got this bespoke joinery here so that I've got extra kind of space to put things, and then this kind of little vanity in here, which I wanted as well, because again, you know, storage is king. And I've kind of dressed it in here like a lot like Scottishy. So I've got my tartan curtains, and then like lots of lovely framed pieces I've bought that are vintage, kind of like, you know, very, very Scottish and very cute. And then like salmon jumping up the river, a little old thing from an auction that I got, which I think looks really nice in here too. I like the idea of having frames in a bathroom. So this toilet, as I said, it was second hand, so it came with a wood toilet seat, and obviously they're so quite an unusual shape. So I couldn't get a new one, and I thought, well, there's actually nothing wrong with it. So I just sanded it down and painted it this really cool green colour. So again, as I said, in the room, it's kind of like picking out bits of green, blue and red. So yeah, I think that's worked out quite well. The light shade on here is another vintage piece, and it kind of looks like a flower petal, but I thought it was really lovely, and I quite like the idea of having like a proper pendant in a bathroom. So the bath panel is also green, so it matches back with the toilet. And the shower curtain's really lovely. It kind of actually is the same stripe as what I've used in the guest bedroom, and it's cotton on this side and then a kind of waterproof material underneath. So it's a super kind of a nice shower curtain, which I know they're quite hard to find. So this is the second guest bedroom. I also call this the green room. And this is a little bit tailored to the fact that I've got two really lovely, wonderful nieces. So I've got Olive and Eve. So I wanted to have two single beds in here so that when they come for sleepovers with their auntie, they've got like their own little space. So yeah, I made it like super fun and playful in here, and it's lovely Edward Bulmer green on the walls, and I believe it's from their nursery collection. I think it's called Evie, but the colour's so nice, and it really kind of like ties the outside in with all the fields. And then yeah, I've got pattern on pattern on pattern in here. So the beds, I made a valance and then a cover for the headboard, and then they've got these lovely Tartan Company blankets. I made cushions for them, and they've picked which bed is their own, and they've got some teddies here. And I bought this little bed from them from an antique shop in Nairn, and I made all the kind of bedding for them. And my youngest niece Olive, as soon as she comes to the house, she runs upstairs, grabs this bed and brings it down. She loves playing with it. So like the other guest bedroom, this also has a second function. So this is like my day office, so where I do my designing. So I've got this little corner here where I do my work. So I bought this tapestry, and I think it's like the artwork downstairs. They kind of formed the colour palette for the room, and it kind of ties everything quite nicely. That was bought from a vintage seller online. And again, another person that I really use a lot, Donna Flowers Vintage, these curtains. They don't quite fit, but I got them anyway because I think they do the trick, and I just love the print on them. The yellow cupboard as you walk in the door, that was probably one of the only things I kept from the original house. It was in the bathroom, and I just sanded it back, painted it this lovely colour, and put those kind of gingham fabric in there. And I've just kind of added a little bit of everything on this wall, just keeping it super fun and kind of interesting with lots of little bits to look at. This is the front of the house, and one of the important things that I wanted for my little cottage was to have these pastel green mint windows and doors, and then I've done matching window boxes to kind of, you know, mirror the colours. This front garden wasn't here when I bought the cottage. It's just a really new thing that I've done. I kind of dug it all up with a little mini digger that I hired for the day. And then made this path and fence and a little gate. I wanted it to look like a little kind of fairy tale cottage house where you kind of walk up to the front door. So a lot of the plants and that are just kind of like new. They're not totally established yet, but yeah, I love gardening, and I'm excited to kind of watch the garden grow. One of my most favourite things about living here is I always have company. and I don't have many neighbours, but I usually have the cows in this field next to me. I absolutely love the views here. There's a kind of hill over there called Clacknaben, which you might not be able to see today, but that's the same kind of hill that you can see from the house I grew up in. So it was really special that I can see kind of like the same thing over here in my house. Home means to me somewhere that you look forward to returning to, whether that's if you've been on holiday or you've just been at work for the day, just a space that you can come back to and feel relaxed, safe, cozy. Yeah, it's really important, and I feel so lucky that I have my own home in my own space that I can do that. Thanks so much, Homeworthy. I really enjoyed showing you around. Now I've got to get back to one of my projects, and it's time for you to leave.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.